already there in that level. So that's why sometimes I don't really record, you see. Not really. I do have some videos. Like if you need a video, let's say, for example, you need more videos in for loop, just let me know. Then I'm gonna send you more videos. Yeah, even if there are previous videos that I have.
All right.
Okay, wait, am I? Okay. So in this program, what is happening here? The first thing, this part, you know, everything, the int main. Then we are going to have int product. The int product there is the product for, is like for multiplication. Then after that, for color is the one you can use J and I. Then it's going to start at 1 and it's going to end at 9. Remember, they were in tabs. In the tab, like it's going to start 1, 2, 3, counting going down. Then we make a end line for it to be in the new line. Then we have another for loop. This is inside here, it's a for loop. Ne? If you check, I told you that there will be for loop inside another for loop 3 times, you remember? Before we ended the class. So we're going to have another for loop. This for loop is inside the other for loop. So this one is for row again. This one we made it for row. This one is for colon, which is in within. So for the colon is going to start from 1, and then it's going to end where the row is. Row is going to end at 9 also. So which means it's going to say colon less equals to 9. Then for product, if you say, we say 1 times 1 is going to be giving us what? The answer is going to say 1. 1 times 2 is going to give us 2. And those, they were going according to the what? To the columns. The way, let me try to open that assignment. So if you say 1 times 1, you see in the row, 1 times 1 will give you 1. If you say 1 times, if you come here, 2 times 1 is going to give you 2. 2 times 2 is going to give you 4. The multiplication is happening in the what? In the column. So that's why not in the column. So yes, in the row, not column. It's happening in a row. They are written in a row. So if you check in this code here, you will see that here in the column, we have 1 and equals to row. So the more the row, the column must be less equals to the row. So which means it must never be, if row is 1, before it go to test, it must start by 1 is less than 1, so that we can have only one number here, like 1 times 1. If there is a row equals to 2, then it's going to say 2 times 1 is going to be 2, 2 times 2, then it ends like that. So when you proceed with this program, you will see that after here, we have a for row, for int row, is it we already write for row on top there. And we also have the one for row, which is going to start at 1. Colon is going to start at 1, and the row is going to start and what? At the row is going to end, a colon is going to end at the row. So the product there is going to be equals to row multiplied by, is going to be equals to row multiplied by colon, because we are multiplying both of them. Then you're gonna input what? You're gonna input the rows inside. You're gonna input those rows. It's gonna make them to be multiplying each other by this formula. Then after that, it's gonna output them with the spaces, a tab. It means tab. It's gonna be making just those spaces. So if you run it, how many enter the key to continue? Okay, let me enter 7. Right, let me see, why is it asking me? All right. So if you see, you can see that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the tab, the first one, and the second one, 1, 2, 3, 4 with what? Without the tab. So you can also still make the tab if you want. You can just create the space as I show you with the double quotation mark without using the tab. So the calculation, it's gonna end at, from 9 times 9 is 81. And it's exactly the same as in your book. So this question, normally they don't really ask it. So you don't have to, I won't say you must focus on it. Just try to learn it and see how it works. I'm gonna send you guys this code, but you don't have to, I'm not gonna say put your focus more on this question because you won't really waste your time. So we are supposed to start with the part 3, which is functions, which now I'm gonna say to you guys, we are going to start to be programming now. So I'm gonna say something. There is no way I can say you guys are struggling in part 1 so far. And then in part 2, that's when it's a little bit of challenge, whereby you are meeting while loop and if statement. So the Boolean is not a problem, but I think, did I teach you about the Boolean? It's true or false. There is nothing that is going to be like talking much in the Boolean. So the if statement, we did make sure that we do that. So everything that I've given it to you, the only thing maybe neatest for loop, we did that. We even did that, the switch statement. I'm not sure if Nico did I do switch statement when we were in class?
Not with me, no.
Okay, then maybe I will reschedule a time, then I will teach you the switch statement. Not today, don't worry about it. It's not even similar to everything that we have done there. It's just something different. So Maralebu, we did the switch statement, I know. More while loops, we did that. So everything here now, you know, so don't worry about the switch statement. I will teach you even tomorrow. Then in this chapter, everything that I've been teaching you, now we are going to be making more practicals. So this is when we are writing something like a functions, you are going to understand it more. You have basics, what is for loop, what is the neatest for loop, what is a while loop. So we are going to be doing practicals on those things that I have been showing you. So you don't have to worry about that. So what is function? I'm gonna take it. Oh, we are recording at the class. I'm gonna erase it. Today, when we talk about the function, remember computer science and mathematics, they are related. That's why you are doing maths modules in computer science. So functions, you have been dealing with a function. A function in mathematics, it's something that it will map from, you are given an x value, then the x value is will map to a function, something that we can call it f of x. So this, when it maps, this function, it can be 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just giving an example and the relationship between programming and math. So this function, you can find that when you map 1 or when you insert 1 to f of x, your answer becomes 2. And when you map 2, the other side, it becomes 3 and so on. Maybe it becomes 4. So you can see that this function, the relationship is between the value of x and y. They are they are independent to each other. So they are functions that we call them in mathematics that they are an onto function, one-on-one and one-on-one function. We call and onto functions. You are going to deal with that when you are final year and second year. They will introduce you a little bit about the onto functions. So these functions, when we do them, even in this programming, we are going to be dealing more of the same thing, but just that in programming, when you use it, it's going to be practical. You might think you are no longer applying those maths that we were doing before. So now when we say function, a function, you have been working with a code called a function, which it was called int main. Int main. Int main, it's a function. And when int main is a function, it's just that it's a main function whereby this function, it have a return type. A function must have a return type. A function must have a name. A function must have a name. A function must have a name, and then also it have a parenthesis. So it's a return type. It's return type for this function that we are talking about, which is main. It's an int, and the int, you know that it means an integer. The name of this function is called main. The main that you see is called what it's called. It's a name of that function, and we have a parenthesis. Parenthesis is the brackets, this brackets, open brackets and close brackets. We call them parentheses. So in this function int main, we used to put nothing when we put braces. We used to say return. We used to say return 0. So when we say return 0, we are returning 0 because inside the parenthesis there was nothing. That's why we write 0. So now we are going to be creating your own function. We are going to create, you are going to create your own functions. When you create your own function, you can give it a name, any name. For example, before we even go there, we have three types of functions that we are going to discuss. The first function that we're going to discuss is called a void function. A void function is a function that does not return a value. It's a function that does not return a value. And we also have a function. This is a void function. We also have a function called a return type, a return function. A return function is a function that returns a value. So what is the difference between a function that does not return a value and a function that returns a value? The difference is that the function that does not return a value, you must not put return type. It must not have, let me just make it like this. It must not have this written. You must not write this statement return something is not needed. But the function that returns something, you can also return this. So today I'm just going to be doing some demonstration with you so that you can understand when we begin properly with these functions. What exactly are we talking about? So we also have another functions called a predefined function. So the predefined functions. Predefined functions, they are functions whereby they are already been declared for you guys in your code block or in C++. Functions like I already introduced to you guys, like cin.get. This is a predefined function. You remember this function? Hello?
Yes.
You remember? I think
Looks familiar.
yes, I taught you guys about this one, cin.get, when we were working with a cin and a get line. Even get line, it's a predefined function. When we say cin, if you remember, you write a name there, then slash semicolon /n. You remember about that one, so that it can allow the sentence, so for you to record, like to capture everything that a user is typing, if it's the characters or the words. So these are predefined functions. So each and everything that I have said here, we are going to talk about one by one. So the first one that I'm going to talk about, which is my favorite, I'm going to talk about the void function. So void function, it does not return a value. So the first thing when you write a code, you're going to use your hash include IOStream using namespace std. Then when you write a function, you don't start with int main. we're gonna start with a function. I'm going to create a just simple function. I will create a function called greeting, void greeting. This is the name of my function. In this function, in the parentheses, I'm not going to write anything. I will say cout hello. Then this cout, I just say hello. After that, when I wrote that, I'm gonna call this function inside. I must have also int main down there, whereby I'm gonna call it inside this function. When I call my function, in this function called greetings, inside int main, I only write the name of a function. So I'm gonna call it, I say greetings. Greeting, you write it the way it is there. It's called greeting. So now, after that, when I've called it, I'm gonna first run it. I've run my code. You can see that it's running. There are no errors. Let me run it. There are no errors. I'm gonna build it. When I build it, say hello level. So now I'm going to explain each and every step. The first one, that one we wrote there, we wrote a function called with the name called greeting, and it's a void. This is a data type. The void is a data type. So this function does not return a value. We only use a cout hello label. Then we must never and ever, when you are writing a void function and say return, when the moment when you say return something in a void, it's wrong. It will never work. Even if I say return 0 now, you will see that if I build my code, it's going to complain because it does not know this. It must never be there in a void function. So in this one, you don't put the void function. Then when you write any function, whether it's a return type function or it's a void function, only those two, you must call it in a main function. You must always have this function in a main function to call your functions. This is, we call it function call. This is called function call. We call it because a main function int main is a return type function. That's why we indicate return 0. I can even call this function 10 times or 3 times. I can even say greetings again. For example, I'm calling the same function, greetings. I can even write something here. For example, I can say cout. I am greeting you again. Then I can say greetings again. So when I say greetings, it's gonna call that same function, say hello level again. So let's write it. If we build the code, you can see hello level, I am greeting again, hello level. So it's in the same line because we didn't put a end line. We can put end line in our functions. We can also put end line here, /n, so that it can be in the new line. You know about that now. Greetings, hello level. I am greeting you again, hello level. You see, it's how this function is. So before we even proceed, do you guys have questions? You can ask. So far in programming, in many people that I know who tutor or who teach programming, even the one at university, there are not many people who explain something, especially programming like me. That one I'm 100%. So if you don't understand what I'm teaching, the explanation that I give is the best explanation ever. in terms of programming because I know what I'm doing. So is there any question? Any question? You have to discuss, ne?
No.
If you don't have, if there is something that maybe is confusing you, now here you must let me know so that I can still explain before we proceed, because this is just a beginning, it's an introduction. Okay, so far, if you are saying you are fine with what we are doing, then you will be surprised. Okay, now we wrote a void function and we also have int main. So we need int main in order for this void to work. Without int main, it won't work. So there are two types of ways that we can write. So the first way that I showed you, you started with greetings, and we will also started after that we go to int main. So the second part I'm going to show you, I copied it, I'm going to delete this part. Some people or some books, not some people, many people when they write here, they don't do this way. So some people, they start with int main, then they write the functions down. So if you start with this, your computer, it does not know this. Or what is greeting? It knows int main is fine, but it does not know what is greetings this, because it's not defined, it's defined down there. The computer uses logic. So when you run your code, it will tell you that greetings was not declared in the scope. So in order for you, if you are starting with int main, you must have a prototype. The word prototype, it's at UNISA book, you don't have, they haven't talked in books that you are using at UNISA. They didn't talk about prototype. The only prototype word is in books, which is for first year student at University of Pretoria, which is a standing out for C++. So in that book, they will teach you about prototype, but in UNISA, they just show you how a prototype, but without defining what is the meaning of that. So a prototype is whereby you define a function, you just write the head of a function. If here, this everything that I've just highlighted here, this is a header function. When they ask you in your question paper, say, write a header function of this and this, they mean you must start from, if it's a void function, you must start from void, go into greetings. So this is a header function. So when we do a prototype on top of your int main, all the functions that you may have, you write their header function and you put a semicolon. So by just doing this, you just did a prototype. We call it a prototype. So which means if you meet a student from University of Wits and you meet a student from University of University of Pretoria or University of UCT, University of Cape Town, not UCT, University of Cape Town, you guys, when you talk, you're going to be in the same language because the standard that they use to teach at Wits, UP, and Cape Town is the same papers. Normally, we write the same things because the levels of those three universities, they are equal. So now, because I have defined this as a prototype, now my computer, it knows that greetings is a function. So if I build my code here, it will show you that is 0 errors, and 0 warnings. So if I run my code, you will see that it's still the same as the way that you saw it, the way we wanted it. It's gonna run properly. Because of, if I start with int main, I must have a prototype. If you don't want to start with int main, you can start with functions, then at the end of your functions, you write your int main, then you call your functions. Remember, this is a function call. It's called a function Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Okay, Gary, maybe you're not around. That's why I wanted to find that. Okay. So as we indicated in this code here, this is a function call. They can ask you in the question, which one is a function call? Indicate like a function call. The moment when you understand what I'm showing you here, you will get good results. So now when you know that, I will say to you guys, if you are writing functions, start with a function first, then at the end use int function so that you don't use one style. Or else if you want to use this one for starting with int, you can start with it. There is no problem. Any style that you prefer, it's okay. So with functions for void normally we're gonna write it in terms of welcoming messages, inputting messages. So this is how we write a void function. So you can say maybe void greetings, and then we can say cout. We normally more often we're going to, in terms of void, we'll use a cout more often and in. We can say void cout. We can say welcome to course. Welcome to course 1511. Then we can even make some lines just to, when we are writing a code, you will see when we are after few days, you will see where we are going after few days, because we're going to be writing a very program that is going to be doing something. So maybe after that, let me just run it and build it. So you can see welcome to course 1511. Let me just put /n there because I want it to be underlined. Welcome to course 1511. You can see the way there, how it's looking like. So we can be maybe doing a program that is going to print a report, I mean results, or a matric certificate or academic record at university. We are still going to use the C++. So it's going to be more interesting and you're going to love it. So any questions so far with this, what we are doing here? Hello? You need to communicate, ne? Because I feel like I'm teaching you guys very nice today and I'm not even fast. Any question?
No question.
If there are no questions, for now, starting this time, today, when I give you something to do, we must do it same time. So I want you guys to write me a function. The way I've doing, write me a function that will display a message, that will display, write me a function that will display a greeting, a welcome message, welcoming message. It can be any message for welcoming. It must be in the form of a function the way we're doing. So can you start now? You can open your code block. So computer science, if you must be, I'm gonna stop recording because I'm going to take much time without being speaking.